Coming up, if you get interrupted frequently when you're speaking, find out why it may actually be your fault. So do you get frustrated when you're trying to have a good conversation and someone keeps interrupting you? We've all had that happen to us, right? But you might be surprised to learn it's not necessarily that the person is being rude, and it may actually be your own fault. Stacey Hankey is the author of Influence Redefined and joins us with the reason why we may be getting interrupted. Thanks for coming in, Stacey. Always good to have you. Okay, so why do we keep getting interrupted? Why do some people more so than others?
We feel like we have to over-explain. We want to give everyone our wealth of knowledge in a very short time frame, which it takes us too long to get to the point in that case. We've all been there. Or we start frustrating our listeners. And because we're living in such a world of everything is fast, no one has time to waste, that when you're the one that takes too long to get to the point, speaks in paragraphs rather than really clear sentences that have brevity, there's a good chance people are going to start to interrupt because they want to guide you to get them to where they need to go.
So you're feeling like this person is so rude, they keep interrupting me. But the reality is maybe I am just taking way too long, going into way too much detail. So what do we do to correct that?
I think you have to just take a step back, and it's kind of ironic that we're here in March because March is the month of active listening. I just found that fact out like a week ago, exactly. And I think that's a big part of it. We are all guilty. Our listeners are guilty today of how many times are we thinking about what to say while the other person is speaking. It's giving yourself that permission to be patient, do less of the talking, let the listener do more of the work, because they're feeding you the information of what do they want to know, what do they need to hear in order to take the action you're trying to influence them to take. That's number one.
Okay.
That's a lot harder to do.
Yes.
It sounds a lot easier
said than done.
We're all guilty of it.
Right.
And then it goes back to something that you and I have talked a couple times before, is this feeling like we have to tell all of our knowledge. We know this saying that says less is more. We all admire leaders who have brevity and say a lot, but with few words. It's really backing down on feeling like you have to over-exaggerate. Because when you start over-exaggerating, over-explaining, I think people start running away from you. They start to look at their timepiece and say, I want to talk to you, but it usually takes longer than it needs to. I'll come to someone else, or I'll come to you a little later.
I'm chuckling because I think we probably all have that friend where once or we know a family member who they're about to start telling a story, and inside you're going, oh no, here we go, right?
There is. We've got someone in my life as well, my family, and any time we see them coming, everyone scatters. and that's starting to become more of an issue than it's not, because I'm thinking in the workforce or even your personal life, you can't have influence if people aren't going to take the time to listen to you. Here's what else starts to happen. You start to create the reputation that you are the one that takes forever to get to the point.
Okay, so I want to get to the point, and I want to make sure that I command the attention and have the influence that I want to have in the workforce. So best piece of advice for that is, where do you begin? Just keep it short?
I think you need to get feedback on it first. A lot of people don't realize they interrupt. When you start to bring up to them that, do you realize that you are constantly interjecting? You know, you have to be comfortable having that conversation. But going to someone that you trust in your personal life, your professional life, to say, I have a tendency to interrupt. I don't know I'm doing it. Would you tell me when I do it? That is step number one. It's, how about the challenge for our listeners today is this week, place a Post-it note in front of you in your workstation to always remind you, whether you're on the phone, whether you're in your meetings, to be conscious of when are you interrupting, when are you saying too much.
Now, that's really good. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm listening to you because I'm thinking to myself, I love to tell a good story, and maybe sometimes I kind of like to embellish and, you know, make it fun and make it a little more dramatic than it actually was. But you're saying in the business world, you really need to think about how you're presenting yourself.
That's it. I had someone the other day in one of my sessions, he says to me, are you recommending that I think before I speak? And I said, yes.
What a concept.
That would be such a great concept. It goes back to we're in such a rush. You're going to get more accomplished. And when I say more accomplished, you will have more impact. You will influence people to take the action you want them to take. When you say less, just make sure that what you're saying is what they need to hear and creates understanding, brevity, and clarity.
And it all kind of comes full circle, too, because the next subject matter we can talk about is how listening can make a difference to be an influencer, right?
Exactly.
So that'll be the next time you come on, okay?
Good.
Where can people go to get more information about your book?
Really easy to find, Stacey with an E-Y, HANKEINC.com.
Very nice. Thanks. Always nice to have you in. Thank you so much.
Here.
Good tips. Very good tips.